Let's walk through a short demo of how to use Canvas announcements effectively. So I'm screen sharing here a Canvas course, and we can see on the home page announcements. So let's think about how these announcements are working in this course. I have here a week one, let me zoom in a little bit, a week one kickoff announcement, hang in there announcement, and a reminder announcement on my homepage right now. So these work because students want to know quickly, go to the course and understand what's happening this week, what to prioritize. And so regularly posting announcements can answer these questions before students ask them. And announcements are great for instructor presence, like this hang in there, and for creating a predictable weekly rhythm with our week one kickoff. So those work well and can help you answer the what's due when and what to prioritize this week. So in online courses, these are great for instructor presence and creating that weekly rhythm. And even in face-to-face courses, announcements help extend our instructor presence beyond the classroom, helping students feel guided and supported. So students might log into the course whenever they want, and the instructor can still be there kind of as their course guide. And also, these announcements can help students reorient when they miss a class or need to prepare for what's next, so they can come here whenever and get answers and guidance. And then the announcements can benefit you, the instructor, because we can schedule send. So let me click into the announcements tab from my course navigation menu. And we can see here a list of announcements that I have created. Several here are delayed until, so that means I created them all at the beginning of the term perhaps and scheduled them to send throughout. So that will save me time down the road because I'm not going to have to worry about creating each one on the day of or anything like that. And then the ones that are posted already indicate that by saying posted on. So those are ones that are visible to students right now. So the announcements are also helpful in that they're archived here. So students can refer back to them. And again, hopefully they reduce some of those repetitive emails because answers are here for everyone in one place. So why we might use announcements are for orienting students, like the week one kickoff. I'm going to click into that one. So this is actually a template. So for the recurring weekly announcements, I might have a template. And this weekly kickoff, sets the tone, highlights what's coming or our roadmap, and what's due. So that's one reason that we would use announcements. I'll go back to my list. And another reason that we might use announcements is for supporting students. So we have something like a reminder. So here I have reminder, exam review March 3rd. So this announcement might be about upcoming deadlines or exams, or especially before major assignments. These supporting announcements might also clarify confusing concepts. So if there's a question that students email you repeatedly, or you're able to answer everyone's question at once here, or provide comments on something that you're seeing repeated in assignments, just to let everyone know in one place. You might also share updates or relevant resources or current events here in these kind of supporting announcements. And back to my list, I have one more reason for using announcements here, which is motivating. So I have one called recognition earned. And so this is a motivating message for students to celebrate progress or to provide encouragement, maybe a midterm check-in or exam prep tips or something like that, or even just, hey, I want to recognize the excellent work you've done. That can be a good use case for an announcement. So we're probably not going to use announcements for anything that's like detailed instructions, or that might be on an assignment page, or information that students permanently need will probably be on a page or in a module. So these announcements are really like timely, temporary guidance. And then let's think about how we can write effective announcements. So I can create a new announcement by clicking the plus add announcement, but I'll show you one that I've already created so we can take a look at just kind of some best practices. So I'll go back to my week 1 kickoff. So number 1, my first tip is to use a template, as I already mentioned. So this one is a template, and I'm just going to copy and paste it into my next week. So unfortunately, I can't duplicate announcements. If you see in the announcement, there's that 3-dot menu on the right-hand side for more options. Some Canvas items have a duplicate option. Announcements, unfortunately, do not. So you would just have to copy that template into the new announcement. But you could send them or copy to, so you could copy the announcement to another course if you wanted to. Like I already created all of these for one section and I want to just put them into another course. That's an option. Or you want to send it to a colleague who's teaching the same course. So send to goes to individual people and you start typing their name to share it that way. So that's helpful to have the template. Also for students, you know, it's predictable. They know what to expect every week. And then, excuse me, I'm going to click into edit here so we can see the announcement when we create it looks similar to our other things in Canvas that we can create. I'm going to expand it a little bit. All right, so one thing that's working well in this announcement is that it is has a clear subject. So we say week 1 and also the topic. So it's very clear to students what this announcement is. And then it's very scannable. So we have headings or bold maybe where that might be helpful, bullet points of things to do. So that's a scannable message for students. And also it should be short, you know, maybe a 30-second, 1-minute read. It's not going to be super lengthy. Because announcements are, you know, meant to be brief things. This announcement is also chunked into short paragraphs and these bullet points, again, for scannability. And then we also want to lead with the most important action. So the very first line of my announcement is the focus, the learning objective. That is my, you know, main or most important thing for this week that I want students to know. And then maybe I'm telling them how it applies to what they're doing in their future or project or anything, how this might apply to them. Or and then I might add a tip or something. And finally, I want to end with my name again, just adding that instructor presence a little bit to show like there's a person behind this announcement who wrote it and not just a text for you. So that's helpful. Also, we have here the assignment and discussion. These are linked to the actual discussion assignment in Canvas. So that's helpful too, rather than trying to say where it is. Just linking directly to it is helpful. And just as we link with anything, we want to link to descriptive text. So we have our discussion and title or assignment rather than like a long URL or a click here, which may be less effective, especially for screen readers. So you may be familiar with how to link, but I'll just share with you real quick. So if we highlight the item on the page and at the top of our rich content editor, we have a link button and then we just select course link. And maybe I want to link the reading to a page in my course. So I link it and there we go. So that's a good way so students know exactly what thing you're talking about in the course. Yeah, so those are just some things to keep in mind while you are creating an announcement. And then again, we can set the date for the future. Oh, this one is in the past, but if I wanted to, I can modify that for a future date and then save that. And if I click save and don't send because I want it to send on March 8th or whatever future date, I'm going to do that so that it doesn't actually send yet, but it'll send on the day that I selected. All right, so that is some tips of how to create or compose an announcement. So let's think about a couple different settings here that we have options for our announcement. As we noticed, these are showing on the homepage in my course. That's a setting that you have to configure. So if you would like for the announcements to appear on your course homepage, you'll have to set that in the course settings. So in your course navigation menu, if you scroll down all the way to settings, we can click in there to see how to set the announcements on the homepage. I'm in course details, and I will scroll all the way down to the bottom of course details. And then I have here show recent announcements on course homepage. So we'll make sure that's checked in order for them to appear on the homepage. And then you can, select how many do you want to show on the homepage. The default is set to 3, which I think feels reasonable. You can go all the way up to 15 if you wanted to, which there may be a use case for that. But I'll just stick with 3 and then update course details to make sure that that is configured the way that you want it to. You might still want to have this announcements tab visible to students so that they can go back through the archive, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click into my announcements now again, so that we can see some of the other settings while you're creating the announcement. One thing that you might want to do is allow students to comment on an announcement. So students, actually, I'll show this from my homepage. We see that the reminder exam review has this one reply that was configured so that students are able to comment on the announcement. So if I click into that review, I'll see that there is one reply, and this student, that's me, my student account. So the student says, thanks for sharing. How long will the session last? And then I can say, oops, I forgot to include that information. So it was helpful for me to have the comments enabled so the student asked a question or write a comment right there rather than having to email me or something. And you as the instructor will get a notification in your email that someone has commented on your announcement. So you don't have to like go check and see, did someone comment? Also, as you saw, on the homepage, there's a blue indicator of a 0 or a 1, 0 unread, 1 reply that I did read. So that's how that looks to alert you, I suppose, that you got a comment on your announcement. So if you want to set that in your announcement, let me click into one again to see that setting. So when I edit my announcement, I can see after I write the text, there's setting options at the bottom. So I can select allow participants to comment so that my students can. And then if I wanted to, I can check allow liking. And that means that the students will be able to like the comments, not like the announcement, but rather like the comments that other folks posted. So if you select only graders, then students aren't going to be able to like the comments that other students wrote. So that's probably the options that you might want to set. And then cancel. I will show you that from the student perspective of if the student can comment or not. So this is the same course, but with my student view. So we can see here this hang in that doesn't have the reply option. So that means that the instructor doesn't allow me to comment on that. So if I click on that one, I'm going to see that it is closed for comments. The other ones have the reply button. So that's something to consider when you're configuring your announcements. There aren't too many options to choose from, but that's one of them. All right, so that is a couple different settings. And I mentioned notifications, and so I'll go back there. Announcements are one of the most reliably seen tools in Canvas because students get an email notification that there is an announcement, and that's the default. So by default, students will get the announcements. They would have to turn off the notification in order to not get it. So that's helpful. You and the students get email notifications when there's an announcement or a comment on an announcement. If you want to make sure that you're set up for that, in the Canvas global navigation menu, you can click on account. And then the very first item in the list is notifications. So I'll click that just to verify and scroll down till I find announcements. Here it is. And yes, my green bell is lit up saying that I'm to be notified immediately if there's a new announcement posted in my course. So students can verify there too if they would like. Yeah, so let's go back to see my announcements there. So those are super helpful. You can delete them if you say, oh, this week one is over, then I'm just going to delete it from my announcements list. Otherwise, and they're there still for the students. So I think that concludes the demo of Canvas announcements. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or let me know. Does anything, if that sparked any questions for you? Before we get into that though, let me stop the recording.